Welcome to channel. Today, we explore story filled with unexpected twists. Please, subscribe and like to stay updated. Let's begin. On Friday morning, my phone rang while I was on a business conference call. The caller ID showed an unknown out-of-province number, not one of my contacts, so I ignored it and concentrated on the call. A few seconds later, I heard the familiar chime, signaling that a voicemail had been left. The call went on, and when it concluded, I returned to the financial analysis I was working on, which needed to be finished by the end of the business day. I had totally forgotten about the message until around 2 hours later when my phone called again. It was the same unknown number. Again, I disregarded it since I needed to focus on the work at hand. The voicemail chime rang once more. I was getting the impression that whomever was phoning was persistent, so I decided to take a little break and listen to their message. The message came from Harborview Medical Center in Keene, Vermont, alerting me that my wife had been taken to the ICU after a serious vehicle accident. They had identified my contact information in their system and provided me a phone number to call for additional information. My immediate inclination was to drop everything, dial the number, and drive to Rochester. However, as I traveled, I had a nagging thought. Why was my wife in Rochester? She was meant to be at work in Bangor, Maine, which was around 30 miles away. She had no reason to be in Rochester. I got to the hospital in approximately 40 minutes when a volunteer directed me to the ICU waiting area. A nurse gave me a quick update, noting that my wife was under surgery and that it may be hours before the surgeon could share any information. Their major emphasis was on keeping her stable. As I sat there trying to comprehend the situation, a police officer arrived and inquired about my name. "Are you David Carter?" he questioned. "Yes," I said, my heart pounding. "I'm sorry about your wife. What's going on? What happened?" I managed to gasp, terror swelling in my chest. The cop clarified. "What we know is that she was exiting from the Golden Horizon Casino when another vehicle ran a stop sign and hit her broadside. She either didn't see the car or assumed the driver was going to stop. Witnesses say the other car was speeding, and the crash crushed the driver's side of your wife's vehicle, pushing it into a parked car. The airbags didn't deploy, and she was trapped inside for quite a while. It's a miracle she survived the crash. I was watching." "Thank you, officer," I mumbled, still processing the information. The officer said, "They'll leave you to it for now. If we need anything from you, we'll contact you later. If you have any questions, please call us." Just as I was ready to call Jane's family, an admissions staff member approached me. "Mr. Johnson?" she inquired. "Yes," I said anxiously. "Do you have any updates on my wife? Can I see her?" "Not at the moment," answered the lady, "but I need you to review some information for accuracy if you can." "Sure, I'll do my best." "What do you need from me?" I said with a smile. "We have included her medical history from our files, and we need to know if anything further needs to be added. All of the Harborview Health Network systems are linked, so any procedures or medical information is now centralized in one database. So, anything performed at any of our in-network facilities, regardless of state, is now accessible. If you can review this printout and provide anything that may be missing, it would be very helpful. Pay close attention to any medications, allergies, and prior surgeries." I took the document and started the review, looking first at the OLE. It accurately mentioned penicillin and latex. I next examined the previous procedures in chronological sequence, from newest to oldest. It included her recent vascular surgery to remove some bothersome veins in her right leg, the repair of a torn ligament in her left ankle, the removal of a benign tumor on her lower back, the repaired ACL in her left knee, the tubal ligation, and finally the miscarriage, dilation, and curettage. I think something is wrong. Oh well, then let's correct that. Is something missing? No. I think you list some things that never took place. It says here that 6 years ago, my wife had her tubes tied, and that at roughly the same time she had a miscarriage, and I don't have a clue what a dilation and curettage is. Let me bring up the files on the computer. The admissions officer began to type, and, a moment afterwards, displayed them on the screen. Okay, it lists Emily Carter of 41 Oak Avenue, Ellsworth, Maine. Her social security number is. Her spouse is David Carter of the same address, but I don't understand. She never told me about having her tubes tied or a miscarriage and the other thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I don't know what to say. Where was that done? And what is a dilation and curettage? A dilation and curettage, also known as a D&C, is a gynecological procedure. I am overly simplifying it. but it involves the dilation, the opening or widening of the cervix, and the removal of contents from the uterus. It is common with miscarriages or, in this case, an elective abortion. This was performed at a clinic in Concord, Vermont. At the time, it was not part of our hospital network, but at some point after, it was acquired by the Harborview Health Network, so all patient records were imported into our database. Is there any other information there that you can share? Would it say why this was performed? Does it list who was with her? There is no reason why listed, and I doubt there would be, but it shows that her brother Ryan Brooks was listed as a contact. Thank you again. I'm sorry. Wait. Yes. Is there any test to prove that the tubes were tied? I mean, I don't believe this is true. We have been trying to have children for 9 years, so this must be wrong. The records are pretty clear, Mr. Johnson. I can't see this as inaccurate. But can you check? There is always a chance that it could be wrong. My wife wouldn't do something like that without my knowledge. I can check with the surgeon, but it is highly unlikely. They would do anything to save your wife's life, and doing anything now that is not medically necessary would not be covered by any insurance. I doubt any doctor right now would. Even Jane and I had always discussed having a family and had been trying for years. I now know she suffered a miscarriage and had her tubes closed soon thereafter. Why? Why did she lie about wanting children? My brain was whirling. I remembered the date on the paper I was holding. We were in our 3rd year of marriage. She had informed me that her brother Evan was having problems with his wife, Sophie, and asked her to come stay with her for a week. Sophie and Evan did had marital problems, but I now know they exploited it as an excuse for her to have a miscarriage. Why the miscarriage? Was this my baby? Why wouldn't she contact me if it was my child? Wasn't it mine? Is this why the cover-up? Why had her tubes tied? She certainly did not want any more children, but was it so she could continue to have unprotected sex with one or more lovers? That doesn't make sense since she may have taken other contraception. Why go to such extremes as surgery? I'm not sure how much time had elapsed when a doctor in scrubs approached me and said, "Mr. Johnson?" "Yes," I answered. "My name is Dr. Patel, and I'm here to inform you that your wife has suffered severe internal injuries, including broken ribs, a punctured lung, a broken collarbone, facial lacerations, a shattered jaw and cheek, and spinal damage. She is under sedation and on life support, and her heart and lungs have been damaged, and her brain has swollen. It is too early to determine the extent of her injuries. I'm sorry to say that we were unable to save her left leg. We had to amputate below the knee because the damage was just too severe. We have a neurologist coming in now to review her case, and it will be a few days before we know if there was any permanent damage. She will require additional surgeries, and I have called in a team of doctors, but we can't do anything else until she recovers from this immediate trauma. We will continue to do our best, and if the situation changes, we will call you. Thanks. Document. Hey, Doc, I mentioned to the person doing admissions that I think there is a mistake on my wife's records. It lists her as having her tubes tied, but I was never aware of that, and we have been trying to start a family. I think someone else's records got mixed up with my wife's. Is there any way you can look into this? She had Mr. Johnson, it is an uncommon request to make, particularly at this time. I don't believe our doing the test right now is necessary. Doctor, please put yourself in my shoes. For 9 years, I've been trying to start a family with the woman I love with all my heart, and now I hear from some hospital clerk that my wife has lied to me for my entire marriage. If it were you, wouldn't you want to know the truth? Does it matter at this time, Mr. Johnson? Does it make a difference right now when your wife recovers? You can have this conversation with her? Okay, I know the timing sucks. I am supposed to be thinking of her well-being, and I don't even know I called my father to tell him the news, but also to tell him we needed to discuss. Jane's parents died some time ago, her father from a severe heart attack and her mother from breast cancer. My mother died 2 years ago after a stroke. She hung in there for a while, but one day she just didn't wake up. My father was distraught, but being the only parent for us all kept him going. He was always powerful and kind-hearted. Jane has an elder brother, Daniel, or Daniel to us, who is unmarried, and a younger brother, Evan, who is married to Sophie. My parents reside in Vermont, and my father is from Maine. I decided to contact my father first. Dad, it's Michael. I know, I have caller ID. I'm not that old that I can't recognize a number. It's Jane. She had a bad car accident, and she's in the hospital. Oh my God, is she going to be okay? We don't know. She's in a bad way. They are waiting to learn more, but they fear brain injury. She had a lot of broken bones and lost part of her leg. Eastern Maine Medical Center or Penobscot Valley Hospital? Neither. Coastal and Rochester. She was at the casino in Rochester, so Coastal was the closest. Makes sense. I can be there in an hour. Thanks, Dad. There's more I need to talk to you about, but it can wait until you get here. I am in the ICU waiting room, but I may head down to the cafe for some coffee and wait it out. Okay, I am on my way. I then decided to call Evan rather than Daniel. He can call when I'm finished with him. The timing may not be ideal, but I wanted answers. My initial call remained unanswered, so I left a message requesting a call back. Evan is a paralegal in a busy law company, so I'm not sure if and when he can answer calls. I seldom, if ever, contact him, therefore I am not aware of his schedule. He answered my call around 45 minutes later. Michael, is she okay? I received your message. I was tied up in a meeting and didn't have my phone with me. What happened? I would come right there. Hang on a sec. First off, she is stable, but she is in pretty bad shape. I still have not been able to see her. Why is she in Coastal in Rochester? The accident happened as she was leaving the casino. Are you okay? You were with her, right? No, she was in the car alone. She was at the casino alone. I didn't say that. I said I was not with her in the car. I thought she was at work. I don't know if she was at the casino alone or if she had met someone or others at the casino. And like I said, I haven't been able to see her, and she is not able to talk, even if I did see her. Oh, I will tell my work I have to go, and I can pack for a few days and come straight to the hospital. Which one is it? It's Coastal in Rochester, Elm Street, but before you come, I have some questions. Can't that wait until I get there? No, it can't wait, and honestly, right now, I really don't want to see you. What are you talking about? Why don't you want to see me? I've learned a lot in the past several hours, but there is much more I need to know, and you have the answers. Okay, now I am confused. What are you talking about? I want to see my sister, so I am coming now. I cut him off. The miscarriage, Evan, when she was with you to help you through some marriage crisis, she was really with you getting a miscarriage. I'm sorry about the ruse, but she felt it was best at the time. She explained it all to you years ago. Why is that an issue now? I had to find out from the hospital just now when we reviewed her medical history. Oh, she told me when she got home she was going to tell you. She promised me. Well, she didn't. All these years of us supposedly trying to start a family and nothing happens. Then I find out she had a miscarriage 9 years ago and had her tubes tied 8 weeks later, and you knew and kept it secret. That is why I don't want to see you. Tubes tied? She never told me that. Michael, you have to believe me. Why? Why believe you? She lied to me for 9 years, and by your omission, you lied as well. Who else knows? Am I the last? No one else knows, unless she told someone. Sophie doesn't even know, and I am guessing neither does Daniel. Why? Evan, why was it even my baby? I need to know. I don't know, Michael. What do you mean you don't know? What did she tell you? She must have said something. She didn't know. I'm sorry, but the truth is, she didn't know. So, she didn't know if I was the father? There was someone else? Yes, Michael, there was someone else. She didn't want to take the risk that when the baby was born, you found out that way. There was no way at the point in the pregnancy to confirm the father, so she opted for the miscarriage. She promised me she would tell you the truth, and she told me she did, and you forgave her. It was such a sensitive subject I never brought it up. I simply believed you were the most forgiving spouse in the world, so I remained silent. Who? Who was the other person or guys? Can we speak later? I want to go visit my sister. Tell me, Evan. He hung off, unable to continue the subject. His sister was his first focus. Evan arrived at the hospital some hours later. Our eyes met, but no words were spoken. He walked to the ICU nurse's station and, after a few minutes of gathering whatever information they could offer, he carefully made his way to where I was seated. Evan, she lied to me. She had a miscarriage, and you kept it from me. Michael, she said. She told you. I didn't see any need to bring it up. Who was it? Or who were they? Just one guy, Nathan Reeves. Nathan Reeves was Emily's high school boyfriend. From what I hear, he was her first love. He grew up across the street from her, and they had been together for years. At some point, things changed, and they separated, and from what I knew, which was little, that was the end of the story. It was a childhood crush, much like 100 years ago. Evan continued, Adam is fair-skinned, blonde, with blue eyes, like everyone else in his family. Even his cousins have blonde hair and blue eyes. Emily's families, as well as your family, all have brown hair, brown eyes, and a dark complexion. If the child was Adam's, there was no way to hide it from you. She could never pass it off as your child. For years into our marriage, she suddenly reconnects with a high school crush and decides to have his child. She caught him having sex in his car with one of her friends, Tina. She confronted him, and in the heated exchange, he said something like this wasn't the first time. It was only the first time she had caught him. She was so embarrassed and angry she slapped his face and left. She never saw him again for years. She went on to UMaine, and he went into the service. She graduated, met you, got married, and always forgotten. Then on one of her trips here to see me, you know how she visits every month, she went out to the market to get something for our dinner. She was gone for well over an hour, longer than normal, and when she returned, she was glowing. I mean, radiant and floating on cloud nine. When I asked her what was going on, she exclaimed, "I saw Adam." She told me how she bumped into him at the market, and they talked, and then went out and had a coffee. She said it was just like old times. He apologized, asked how she was, and they caught up. I was furious. I reminded her of two things. First, I reminded her that he was the guy that broke her heart by repeatedly cheating on her and embarrassed her in front of everyone on prom night. Secondly, and more importantly, I reminded her that she was married and shouldn't be catching up on old times with prior boyfriends, especially without her husband. She brushed it off as nothing and said it was all innocent. No more was said that weekend, and as far as I knew, that was it. What I later learned was that they exchanged numbers and kept in touch. I found this out when, on her next visit, she had already made plans to meet Adam and wanted me to cover for her if you called. I was to say she had run out for something and forgot her phone. Fortunately for me, I guess you never had a reason to call. I told her time and time again not to do this, but she again just brushed it off and said it was nothing. This went on for years, and at times, she didn't even use the monthly visit. Whenever she could sneak away, she did. When I found that out, I once again confronted her, and she said she wouldn't stop. She still loved Adam, but also loved you. She said it was just a fling, and she would end it. And since you didn't know, you wouldn't be hurt. I died when she said that, and I told her that she is putting me in a bad place, and I would never cover for her. I told her maybe she had no guilt, but I sure did. I was so embarrassed and ashamed of myself. So, she cheated on me for at least the first 4 years of our marriage? Yes, Michael. And after the miscarriage issue, I thought she had stopped. Whenever she came to visit, since she was always here with me, there were never any more dates that I knew of. Thanks for that, Evan. I believe you, but now I am wondering if she was meeting Adam at the casino. I can't think of any reason she would be there and not at work. Michael, I am so sorry, and I know you must hate me, but she is my sister. I understand you won't want me to stay at your place, but I will get a room someplace. One more question, why get her tubes tied? I told you, I didn't know about that. All I can think of is she didn't want another miscarriage. Miscarriage is a very difficult decision that can affect you for the rest of your life. It is killing a baby. Thinking for myself, I know that if I ever had to do that, I would never, ever want to do that again, even though she was a cheater. She was raised a Catholic and went to church every Sunday of her life. She once told me that she loved you both, and she didn't think she could ever stop being with Adam. He had some type of control over her. My guess is that she didn't want to risk another pregnancy with Adam, so she took the huge leap to have her tubes tied. But why not use protection? She can have safe sex with Adam and a baby with me. I know. Maybe she did use protection with Adam and still got pregnant. Maybe she couldn't trust herself, and sometimes, at the moment, just did it anyway. Maybe she only had one protection, and they wanted sex again right away. I just don't know. Nothing more was said. I have never felt more lost in my life. My wife, the lady I loved with all my heart, is holding on by a thread, but I also discovered that nothing was as I had thought. I've never felt like this before. I honestly didn't know what to do and felt numb. I didn't feel any pain, love, or energy. Which direction was up? In a matter of hours, my life as I knew it came crumbling down around me, and I felt every pound of the world's weight come down on me. I needed to go. I didn't know where to go, and I couldn't sit here. I went to go to the cafe because one thing I knew I wanted was a drink, and drinking was not an option just now, so a coffee would have to do. Just as I was sitting at a table with my coffee, my phone rang, and I realized it was my father. I informed him where I was and awaited his arrival. When he arrived at the table, he hugged me, and I told him all I'd discovered. My God, son, I had no idea. Well, neither did I. Did you see her yet? No. and I am not sure I want to. I can understand that. You need some time. I need answers, Dad. I need to know why and how she could do this. Evan gave me a lot of information, and it was a lot of words. To some, it is an explanation, but to me, it is more like a timeline. I guess I can see what happened, but I am still not sure of the why. Why would she go back to him so easily after all the time that had passed? Why would what we had not been enough? Why did she think it was okay to be in love with two men at once? Why not just tell me no kids, son? I don't think anyone, including Jane, can tell you why or explain why in any way that will make sense to you. No one knows what state of mind she was in to rationalize what she did, and no one can ever make it sound like it was the right thing for her to do. Somehow she felt she could have her marriage and her boyfriend all at the same time, and nothing would be wrong. I know that sounds foolish, but that is what she did. So now what do I do? She lied to me for at least 12 years, maybe longer if I include our dating and engagement. What do you want to do? I don't know. Right now, I am not thinking straight. In a few days, I will be angrier than hell, and then I will probably fall back in a pity me mode. You've been through a lot in just a few hours. No one can fault you for how you feel. My phone rang, and I saw it was the ICU nurse station. Hello, Mr. Johnson. Your wife is room ICU 223. You can go and see her now, but only for a few minutes. Thank you. I hung up the phone. I glanced at my father. They said I can go see her now. He'll go with you. No, I'm not going. I'm not ready. I understand. I'm going home. Follow me. Okay, son. On the way home, my phone called 4 more times, 3 from the hospital and 1 from Evan. I disregarded them all. I drove into the driveway, followed by my father. There were no words uttered as we entered the home, and I turned on the lights. It's weird, but I didn't see anything. I was not searching for anything specific, yet nothing popped out. I didn't seek for photos of Jane and me, nor did I search the place for any recognizable signals. I was in a fog, except for the booze cabinet. When I heard my father remark, "I bet you haven't eaten all day. Let's see what's in the fridge," I raced for the tequila. As I poured 2 glasses of tequila, I heard the microwave buzz. My father joked, "She may have been a cheater, but she's a damn good cook. That's a nice-looking lasagna." We sat at the table, and while he wiped his plate, I just moved it about on mine. He was correct. She was a fantastic chef, but I didn't feel hungry just now. Dad, so what do I do? You never answered me at the hospital. Normally, a father lives for these moments when we get to pass on all of our wisdom. We learn from our life experience, what we were taught by our fathers, and what we were taught by our grandfathers. But in this case, I have to be completely honest with you and tell you I have no idea. I could take the easy way out and say it is your decision and leave it at that. And by the way, it is your decision. First off, you have to look at what you know. Up until this afternoon, how were things? I mean, look at your marriage and your life and how you felt and how you thought things were going. Things were great. Work was and is great. I have plenty to do but not overwhelming. I am making good money. I have a great home, car, and solid investments. My sex life was awesome, and I thought I had a wife that loved me. You do have a wife that loves you. You just learned she loves someone else as well. That's not what you asked, and not helping. Oh, but it is. Let me finish. So with the exception of what you learned today, and that was a huge destructive bomb that blew up, things were great. Yes? They were. So, where's your family? Where are the 3 kids you wanted? You know that answer. She had her tubes tied, but you didn't know that until this afternoon. So, my question stands about how are things, and your answer. You didn't mention the lack of children. So, is that, or is that not important? It's very important, but I thought they'd come. I thought we just had a problem conceiving, and I didn't know why until today. I mean, in our first years of marriage, we were both tested, and we were told everything was fine. She could conceive, and my boys were great swimmers. A few years later, we were tested again, and they didn't say anything about the tubes being tied. We went separate. I don't remember why, but our schedules didn't match. So we had diff. So, if there was no other man, and if there was no tube tying, would you still say things were great? Yes. Now, if you went to a fertility clinic, and if you found out that either you or Jane had some medical issue, and you would never be able to have children other than adoption, would things still be great? I never thought about it, but I would say yes. We had each other, and we would have our answer why, so I would say yes. So, having children is important, but it would not be a deal breaker to end your marriage? No, under the circumstances you described, it would not be a deal breaker. Good. So that leaves us with where you stand on her having a lover, one she intended to keep, and her lies. Yes, I said. So, to make it easier for you, you have to ask yourself if you can knowingly continue to share your wife with another man, and can you accept her lies? Lies about not only the lover, but also lies about you having children together. Can you ever trust her to not lie ever again? I don't mean lies about denting the car or maybe buying more shoes than she would ever wear. I mean lies directly to your face about subjects that touch your soul like she already has. Hell no. I don't want to share my wife, in no way can I tolerate the lies. So, your answer is simple. She's gone. So, you divorce her? No way. So you continue to live with mom if she had a long-term lover she intended to keep and lie to you as Emily lied to me? Of course not, Dad. You're killing me. I can't take these riddles. Pour me another drink, and he'll explain. I handed him 3 more fingers and sat down to listen. It's a no-fault world, son. No one gives a damn about what you did or what she did. In the best case, things go 50-50ths. You divorce her, she gets half of everything you own, and she keeps her lover boy. Also, look at the situation. Poor wife is in the hospital hanging by a thread, and before she even wakes up, the heartless husband serves her with divorce papers. Even if some lawyer takes your case, you will look like the villain. No one will know about her lover boy. So, no divorce, not yet. Explain. What are the odds of her surviving? We don't know, but from what you tell me, it's not good. If we do nothing but sit and wait, what harm is there? From what you told me, the accident was not her fault, so the medical bills are covered by the insurance coverage you have now and any possible settlement. If she survives and has brain damage, she is in a long-term care facility. She is out of your life, and she will not be shacking up with Loverboy. It's the same as a divorce, with the exception of remarrying, and you keep the house and all your funds. I don't think right now you care to remarry, right? Hell no. That's the last thing on my mind right now. If she dies, not to sound cruel, son, you keep the house and all of your funds intact. Plus you get the life insurance money, the settlement money, and she is out of your hair forever. Now, the worst case is she somehow recovers, has no brain trauma, and gets by with a prosthetic leg. That is when, once the dust settles and it is no longer fresh in anyone's mind, you hit her with the divorce papers. Yes, we are back to 50-50ths, but there isn't much else you can do. Maybe yes, maybe no. Adam may not want her in that condition. Who knows anything about Adam anyway? Maybe he has a wife and kids, and we can use the divorce against him, and his wife divorces him. If he's single, like I said, he bolts. But we still have a few things to discuss about Adam anyway, and also that meddling brother-in-law, Evan. You need to call Sophie and explain everything to her. I'm sure that hot-blooded Irish woman would like to know what her husband has forget about him. He ruined my marriage. No, Emily ruined your marriage. Adam was just an excited guy in the right place at the right time who knew a gift horse when he saw it. Yes, he shares the blame, but your wife was the one who broke your vows, not Adam. But what I mean by forgetting him is that you need to be clean. No one but you, Evan, Emily, Adam, and I know about this affair. All the hospital knows is that she had a miscarriage at one time. As far as you know, it was your child and your wife made the decision. I think I understand. Good. I need to go and make a few calls. Get some rest, if you can, and I will be in touch. With that, my father drank his drink, hugged me, and went. I walked upstairs to the master bedroom and gazed at the bed we'd shared for so many years. I removed the covers and slept on the bare mattress, not wanting to smell Emily's aroma. I lie there for him not sure how long, listening to my mobile phone vibrating on the nightstand before turning it off. Damn the ICU ward and Evan. I didn't want to speak to them. I awoke about 4 a.m. the following morning, due in part to my early bedtime and in part to the nightmares I was having. I saw visions of Adam banging Jane repeatedly as she screamed in delight. Her ecstatic screams were ones I could never create. Of course, I never saw her and Adam, but my imagination ran wild. I glanced around the room and saw how flawless everything seemed. It, like the whole home, was decorated just how Jane desired. Every piece of furniture, knick-knack, and portrait. I had never noticed it before, but there was nothing I could attribute to my actions elsewhere. The following day, I went to the hospital, ready to be a kind and caring husband. I carried a book with me. I didn't expect to read it, but it seemed natural as I went down the corridor of the IU ward to her room. I could feel the nurse's frigid glances. Hayrace, the cold-hearted son of a bitch that refused to return our calls or stay to see his wife. When I entered the room, Evan was seated in the chair near Jane. Jane, hardly recognizable, and tied to there are several devices that produce various beeps and buzzes. I didn't feel anything. When I see roadkill, I suppose I feel more sorry for the innocent animal than I do now, as I stare at the damaged shell on the bed. There were no words said as I sat in the sole other chair, opened the book to some random page, never looked down at the text, and did nothing. This process repeated itself every day for the following week. It was the middle of the week when Daniel arrived. He had been out of the country for business when Evan called him and was just now able to make the journey to Rochester. "Evan tell you?" "Yes," she said. "Some guy ran a stop sign." "Any word on her condition?" I informed him of the little we knew about any recovery and the need for more procedures before bringing up the issue I wanted to address. I meant, "Did Evan tell you about her affair, the miscarriage, and the lie about wanting children?" Evan's reply indicated that he was once again extremely excellent at maintaining secrets. "What are you talking about? What affair?" I had to tell Daniel the account of Jane's behavior during my marriage, and as I did so, I could watch Daniel shift from being sorry for his sister because of the accident to bewildered because of what I was saying to angry over the treachery. He sat in the chair and leaned forward, first glancing at me, then his sister. "Michael, I don't believe it. It can't be true. Why would Evan lie? Why would the medical records say what they did? I don't want to believe it, neither do I, but Evan tells a good story, and the hospital assures me their records are correct. What are you going to do?" "Nothing. Nothing. What can I do until she wakes up and we talk about it? What should I do? Look at her. She is in no condition to keep lying or sleeping around with someone else. For now, I am going to do nothing. If for when she wakes up, we will deal with it then. I get it. But Michael, you were like my brother, and I mean that. If I had any idea, I would have stepped in. I would have told you, and then I would have beaten the shit out of that guy. Is there anything you need me to do? I mean, you will be tied up here for God knows how long. Do you have food? Need money? Need me to take your shift?" "Daniel, am good, but there is one thing you can do for me." "Name it. Think before you agree." "I want you to tell Sophie. I want him to know what Evan did to me. He needs to know that his wife is just as guilty as Jane. Her screwed-up loyalty to her sister was so deceitful and underhanded. He needs to know her character and let him decide if she herself has any secrets left. If you don't tell him, I will." "Michael, I understand, but you know his temper, especially when he drinks. He can kill my sister if he thinks she has lied to him as well. That's why I said think about it. He will find out. It's either you tell him when she is not home, or you be there when I tell him, so you can protect her. Either way, it may be best she takes a trip for a while or stays with you. I am not looking for her to be physically hurt, but I do want her hurt." Daniel understood, and nothing further was spoken. The next week, I was sitting in the room with the open but unread book when Evan walked in. She had a black eye and hobbled towards me, arm lifted and open fist ready to hit me. "You scum sucker," she said as she swung. I intercepted the punch by gripping her arm and rose from the chair, ready to hit back, but paused. She started sobbing. "He thinks I cheated. He has no proof but said if I could lie for my sister and cover up for her like this, then I must also be a cheater. He called me a 304, hit me, and threw me out of the house. Why did you tell him? Why can't you just let this go, Evan? It was bound to come out sooner or later. You and Jane made the bed. Now you lay in it." Daniel did what was right, telling him. Daniel told him. "Did you tell Daniel?" "Oh my God. Now everyone will know." "Yes, Evan, your cousins, my cousins, your aunts, everyone knows. You see now what you have done? Had none of this happened, had you not been an enabler, we would all be standing here, shedding a tear for poor Jane. Now instead, we have cards and flowers, all with false-hearted best wishes messages." As this argument was winding down, I was told that we had another guest. There was a 2-person restriction, so I asked Evan to walk outside. My brother Alex entered the room. Alex isn't my biological brother. Alex is the son of my father's closest friend, Chris, who also serves as my godfather. No, not like a mafia don, but the same as my godfather since my confirmation. Alex and I grew up together and referred to one another as brothers. He approached me, hugged me, and murmured quietly, "Be strong, my brother," before handing me a newspaper and leaving. Evan returned to the room as I read the newspaper, which had been opened to a certain page. Wasn't that Alex? He didn't stay long. Yes, that was Alex. He just stopped by to bring me a newspaper. You know, they say that reading to people when they are in a coma or sedated like this is helpful. I thought maybe a little news from the hometown might help. Evan now seemed perplexed yet curious. Is that the Northview Ledger, son? Yes, it is. Covers Northview Ledger, Brunswick, some Vermont. You're familiar with it. Let me read you something. You'll find very interesting. I positioned the chair closer to Jane for impact. I'm paraphrasing here, but it says here that a very badly beaten and mutilated body was pulled from the Connecticut River late yesterday evening. Police say that the body was not immediately identified because of the severe trauma to the face, the removal of limbs, and other horrific mutilation that the paper would not publish. Later, DNA analysis identified the body as that of 31-year-old Nathan Reeves, a father of 2 from Concord, Vermont, who went missing 3 days. Evan looked like she was about to puke. You did this to me. How did I do anything? I have been here almost all day, every day. I haven't even gone back to work yet. Somehow you did it. Come on, Evan, that's a serious accusation and that can get you into big trouble. We don't even know if this is the same Adam, and even if it was, how or why would the police tie this back to me or my family? The affair, Michael, jealous husbands do that. Affair? What affair? Who knows about an affair? Go ahead and call the cops. The hospital staff can vouch for my being here, and my car transponder will show I haven't been on the I-95 for months. They can access my car GPS and see where I have been, and we will all come up clean. Maybe you did it, or Daniel, defend your sister's honor. Shame about the kids, though, now without a father, but I wouldn't know that, would I? You're so cold, Michael. How could you? How could I what, Evan? How could I stop feeling? How could I forget? Simple, Evan. In one day, you find out you're living in a sham, some game or scheme perpetrated by the one you love for over a decade, only to find out all you hoped for would never come to fruition, only when you, at the same time, experience the shock and pain of seeing your loved one be a vegetable. This is how you quick Evan stormed out of the room, and I sat down in the chair again, opened the book to a random page. Weeks later, the additional procedures were performed. Jane was yet to awaken. I had used up all of my vacation time and family medical leave, so I needed to return to work. All the well-wishers came and departed, and I put up a nice front. My work had decreased somewhat, but not to the point where my employment was jeopardized. Nothing further was spoken or published about the death of Nathan Reeves. Jane was released to a rehabilitation facility. Upon admittance, I was requested to review medical documents again, as well as fill out some new papers, such as the Do Not Resuscitate or DNR procedure. I read the form. They have to select what steps to take in specific situations. If her heart stops, would they administer CPR, an electric shock to the heart, or artificial respiration? They also have a section on feeding, namely if they feed her via a tube if she is unable to feed herself. I sought assistance from the admissions personnel due to my confusion. She was already on a breathing machine and was being fed via a tube. They stated that at some point, I would have to decide whether or not to cease the CPR or shock to the heart, which I needed to address right away since her heart, albeit wounded and feeble, was beating on its own. This was it. This is what my father stated. I could have said, pull the plug, and been done with it, but as furious and upset as I wasn't prepared. I desired the conflict. I had not heard from Jane. She hadn't had a chance to reject my claims, much alone acknowledge the affair and falsehoods, and ask forgiveness. I wanted to hear from her. What were her motivations, whether she lied or not? I needed the encounter to get closure. I did not sign the paperwork. Allow her to survive, if you can call it that, for the time being. I folded the forms and placed them in my binder. 3 weeks later, when visiting the rehab facility, I was astonished to find Dr. Patel beside the bedside. Hello, doctor, is everything all right, Mr. Johnson? Again, I am sorry for what has happened to your wife. I was making my rounds and, even though she is now under the care of the doctors managing this facility, I felt the need to come to visit and check up. There is nothing new I can tell you. So far, things have not gotten worse, but it doesn't appear that there is any improvement at all in her breathing or neurological functions. We fear that the brainstem damage was too severe to recover. The brainstem controls her breathing as well as her heart rate. I seriously doubt that she would ever be able to breathe on her own, and only time will tell if her heart regains any additional strength. Will she wake up? I'd love to talk to her. I don't know, but I honestly don't think so, Mr. Johnson. You asked me about the tubal ligation when you asked how I would feel if it were to have happened to me. I took what you said to heart. I have 5 children, and they are the love of my life. If someone had stolen that opportunity from me, I would be devastated. The doctor then scanned the room and continued, with an almost sly or devious look. In order to best assess your wife's condition, I determined that some additional exploratory tests were required. I wanted to know if there were any additional internal injuries that I might have missed. You understand what I am saying, don't you, Mr. Johnson? I performed a procedure called a hysterosalpingogram. I inject a dye into the womb, and as it fills the cavity, it will go up into the fallopian tubes. That is if they are there and intact. The test confirmed that your wife's charts are correct. She did have a tubal ligation. I'm sorry. Dr. Patel shook my hand, gave me a sad but understanding nod, and then went. I sat alone for what may have been hours or minutes. I had lost track of time. Then I realized what I was about to do. I reached inside the bedside table and withdrew the pin provided by the admissions clerk, then pulled the paperwork from my book and ticked off each box. I'll let nature take its course, but I still want closure. Then I realized I hadn't truly looked. ID always trusted Jane, so I never snooped or peered into what I assumed was her personal space. I determined that now was the moment. When I entered the home, I walked directly to our office and grabbed her laptop. It was not password secured, but everything else, including Facebook, Twitter, and email, was. Jane wasn't a computer specialist, and she struggled with passwords and IDs. She jotted everything down. I searched through the desk drawers but found nothing. There are no notebooks or pads. I searched her purses, bags, and bedside drawers. Same results, nothing. Back at the computer, I saw the notes icon at the bottom of her Mac. Opening it, I saw she had listed what had to be passwords and accounts. I proceeded to Facebook and signed in using her usual email and password on the first attempt. I noticed hundreds of connections, including Nathan Reeves, but there was nothing damning. I read all of the correspondence, which were just a few months old, and it was essentially two old friends keeping up. His wife was Monica, and his oldest kid was Chris, while his youngest was Zoe. There was no evidence that it progressed beyond routine conversation. I then navigated to her email account. It was also simply harmless rubbish, like spam from retail shops, work colleagues keeping up, my emails to her, and her reply. Nothing happened again. Looking over the notes, I saw one combination of her name and number. It may be her ID or password. But for what? I assumed she must have another email account, and this was her ID. I know she constantly defies the password regulations and uses a birthday or anniversary. Her customary emo is her birthday, followed by our anniversary. Therefore, this must be the ID. I opened Google Mail, put this code as the ID, and then used her normal birthday and anniversary password. Pay dirt. I discovered all of her emails as well as Adam's emails dating back years, including messages about when and where they would meet, follow-up emails about how fantastic their time together was, how great the sex was, and so on. Exactly as Evan recounted their chance encounter. All those years ago was only the beginning. That weekend did not involve sex, but she did recount their make-out session and promised a future get-together. There was never any disparaging remarks about me, but Adam did gripe about how his wife Monica was a dud when it came to sex. Adam shared anecdotes about how Monica would never give him BJs, and he has never had them as well as Jane did. He went into great length about things I was already familiar with. I could see how the seduction was occurring. Pour me into a nasty sex marriage with a lady I never loved. I just loved you, Jane, and Monica was a rebound boo, and Jane went for it wholeheartedly. I also read that Adam insisted on no safeguards. Protections triggered a response, so he couldn't utilize them. Really, Jane, you were that stupid? I finally had an explanation for the pregnancy and tube tie. She continued to have unprotected intercourse with this person, and to avoid becoming pregnant again, she had her tubes tied. The most upsetting finding came in the emails, when Jane attempted to persuade Adam to divorce Monica and marry her. She often expressed her love for him, and said that she would be a better wife and mother than herself. It didn't matter that the children were not her own. A boy and a girl would suffice. She said this multiple times throughout the years. That ripped my heart out and crushed it under her heel. Adam refused to leave Monica because he did not want to be a part-time parent, and he persuaded Jane that the monthly relations they had would enough. So her love for Adam was stronger than her love for me. I no longer felt guilty about signing the DNR form. Jane's heart stopped functioning 7 months after the accident. With a sorrowful expression and a tear in my eye, I welcomed relatives and friends at her burial as a loving, caring husband. I had Jane cremated and buried next to her father at a tiny cemetery near the church her father and mother frequented. Everyone felt it was incredibly kind of me since they knew how much she adored her father and how he often joked that she was his favorite. If only they'd known that Jane and I had ever discussed funeral preparations and she insisted on not being cremated. She requested a bronze coffin with etched flowers on the corners, as well as some of her favorite possessions, such as her butterfly brooch from her grandmother and her wedding and engagement rings. She also wanted to be buried at a high cemetery near but not overlooking the beach in Vermont. We met and proposed on the Maine shore, which has always been our favorite location. We purchased a family plot there some years ago. No way was I going to be buried next to her. The life insurance coverage would come in useful since I want to relocate to Vermont myself. I still get along well with Daniel, and purchasing a new home there with space for a boat will assure many years of fishing and enjoyment. The payout from the accident is still being reviewed, but it seems like it will be a windfall. The driver of the car that struck Jane was discovered to have drank much too much alcohol at a company-sponsored function. He was over twice the legal limit, driving a corporate vehicle, and had a suspended license. My attorneys will have a field day. Evan and Sophie divorced. His striking Evan was the last straw for her. He declined to get therapy for his drinking and maintains he has no anger management difficulties. Evan is still upset with Daniel and me for informing him, but we insist that we did the correct thing. It did, after all, release her from a wife beater, so it had some positive consequences. I did discuss my results with Daniel and Evan. I hated to ruin their memories of their sister, but just as Jane was a victim, so was I. I wanted to feel vindicated. Daniel was humiliated and heartbroken, while Evan felt exploited and angry. She sobbed and held me, saying she was sorry. As much as I desire children, am not in a rush to find another wife. I am convinced it will happen, and maybe I will end up with a ready-made family. There are a lot of single mothers out there, and it will not be the widow Sinclair. One day, Michael sat calmly, looking at the phone in his hand. The world beyond the window seemed stuck in time, as if holding its breath for what was to follow. The tumult of the previous few months seemed distant now, replaced by an odd quiet, a calm after the storm. He remembers the day the call arrived, unexpected and ambiguous. The voice on the other end had voiced a question that was both ordinary and ludicrous, but yet had an unexplainable weight. "Do you like soup?" He responded without hesitation, surprised by his own words. I hated it earlier, but now I do. Now, sitting alone in the dark light of his flat, Michael giggled gently, the strangeness of it sinking in. Soup was such a stupid code, yet it somehow made sense. It had an almost lyrical quality to it, a sign of consolation among strife, simplicity in the midst of complications. His imagination replayed the events, including the fury, sadness, and betrayal. However, while those feelings swirled, something new formed, a subtle, unexpected sensation that replaced the bitterness, contentment. Michael grinned for the first time in what seemed like forever. It wasn't a joyful grin or a triumphant smirk, but a calm, knowing smile that conveyed clarity. He did not need to know who was on the other end of the phone call. Whoever it was, they understood him well enough. The phone buzzed again, interrupting his thoughts. Another unknown number came across the screen. Michael did not respond this time. He set the phone on the table, sat back in his chair, and let the slight grin stay. The question rang in his thoughts, as did his answer. He enjoyed soup now, and maybe he liked what came next. Thank you for watching. How would you deal with Michael's situation? Please share your ideas below. Do not forget to like and subscribe.